If you play the Vienna, here are 7 must-know traps that will teach you the tactical opportunities which exist in the Vienna. Now, I'm going to start the video by looking at some of the traps that exist in the Vienna Gambit, and we're going to end the video with many different traps that exist in other variations of the Vienna game. So let's go ahead and begin with the Gambit with f4, and I'm going to look at the main line here, because I think most people know that if they, for example, take this pawn, then after e5, knight to g8, knight to f3, white wins here so much, and it's very easy to do so. But how do you go about tactically winning the game in the mainline variations? What are some of the tactical opportunities which exist? Well, one of the things you can do is take, and after they take, I'm going to look at 2 traps that exist in the main line, which is knight to f3. This is the most common at the top level, but don't worry, if you play queen to f3, I also have a trap for you that we're going to look at afterwards. So let's begin with knight to f3. In this sort of position, there are many different ways that black can play. One option is bishop e7. We're going to continue by going d4, securing our center, and after the move f5, securing the knight. One of the nice things that we could do as white is take like this. And the point is that this knight is now a bit weaker, but even more importantly, after bishop takes, notice that this square is going to also be weaker. And we can take advantage of this. After the move c5, we can put a knight on this square on e5. And for example, here comes the tactical idea. After queen e7, queen to h5 check wins on the spot, because g6, bishop takes g6, and we're using the knight here as a supporting piece. We're using the queen and the bishop. After pawn takes, we do not take the rook. They can take back with the bishop, but we take here instead on g6, and this actually came from a game where white simply castled, and in fact, after taking back, black resigned here, because just look at how amazing this position is. Bishop to g5 is coming, the pawn is advanced. Trap number 2, knight to f3, and now let's look at bishop g4 instead. Black goes for this overly aggressive system where they're pinning the knight and trying to get another knight in here quickly. Let's see how we deal with this. Queen to e2. We're adding pressure onto this knight. Now they ignore it. Knight to c6, and after takes, knight to d4. It looks scary, but guess what? Queen to d3, they're going to take a piece, but guess what? We already won a piece. So all we do here is move back the knight, knight to g3, and incredibly, the bishop is hanging, and the knight is hanging, and black is going to lose a piece. Whichever one they choose to save, the other one is going to be hanging, and white is already up a piece on move 9. It's an incredible idea. Moving on to trap number 3, as I mentioned, let's look at queen to f3. In this position, f5 is another one of those very common ideas against securing the knight, and here we're going to continue by going knight to h3. This is one of the common developing ideas with the queen on f3. The knight can come through the h3 square into the game, and so we're going to have the move g6, trying to develop the bishop and solidifying some of the pressure that could exist on this e5 pawn. So we have d3, kicking away the knight, takes, bishop e6, rook to b1, hitting the pawn, and in this position, look what ends up happening. a4, a5, knight to g5, the bishop comes back, and now rook takes on b6, with the point that after takes, we don't need the rook, we just need the 2 bishops. And look at how geometrically pleasing this final position on the board is, with the bishops and knights doing absolute damage here. They're gonna have to give away the queen, but okay, we are very happy to go into this position like this. So this takes us to trap number 4, which is gonna be outside of the Vienna Gambit. Let's see what happens after the move bishop c5. We go bishop c4, and this is something that everyone should know if you play the Vienna. Whenever there is the copycat variation, there are many tactical opportunities with the beautiful queen to g4 here, and there's a lot of pressure and a lot of ideas. For example, queen f6, knight to d5, you give away f2 with check, but incredibly after king d1, everything is defended here, and there's just too many threats. We're threatening this fork winning this rook, we're threatening taking on g7 winning this rook, and just to show a couple of the many different variations which exist, after bishop e6 defending this pawn, we're going to take over here, and eventually we're happy to take the rook and be up a lot of material. Now trap number 5 is another variation inside of this queen to g4 concept, where here, if they play the move g6, defending against the rook that we just took in the trap number 4, we go knight h3, and after d6, knight takes f2, we're defending the queen and therefore up an entire piece with more material very soon to come. So a huge attacking position, already up material. This is a really fun line, queen to g4. There are too many possible tactical ideas to cover in just this one video, but I'd urge you to research this more because queen to g4 can win you so many quick games, really regardless of what they do. Now let's go back for a second, because for trap number 6, after bishop c4, I want to show you what happens if they go knight to e7. Let's say they know this knight to c6 idea and they're trying to avoid it by delaying knight to c6 and first going and playing knight to e7. Well, guess what? We still have a tactical idea. Queen to h5, threatening here. Okay, they're going to castle, of course. And after they do so, we're going to go bishop g5, pinning the knight. They're going to get out of the pin, very logical, and now knight to d5. And we're hitting over c7, so they might defend if they don't want to take over here, but guess what? Already now we have another stunning tactic, knight to f6 check. Look at this one. And after takes, there is no way to stop this checkmating pattern. There is no way to stop queen to h6 and queen to g7, something like this, and it's time for black to resign. Now the final trap that I want to show you occurs in a different move order. If they play knight to c6, this is trap number 7 now, bishop to c4, and if they go for this bishop immediately because they saw that this bishop was really a huge piece in a lot of the attacking ideas, and they go knight to a5 to go after it, well, bishop takes f7, another tactic, and after takes, queen to h5, this is already very difficult for black to come back from. If the king moves, we're happy to take here with check. If g6, we're going to take here anyways with a fork, winning more material. It's very difficult again for black to come back from this, but I do want to show a funny thing with this one. It could also work the other way around, so you do need to be careful. What do I mean? Well, in this position, ladies and gentlemen, if black instead goes bishop c5, never go after this bishop. If you go knight a4, guess what? Bishop takes f2, it's the exact same concept. And there was a very famous game, I'm sure many of you will know, this is one of the immortal games which ended in a draw after this repetition. It's super funny, I'm not going to analyze it now, but the point is this tactic exists for both players, so definitely watch out for it with black and with white. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe if you're new around here, like this video if you learned something new from it, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.